The scenes from the big celebration last night as Susan Holt led her Liberal Party to a majority government in the New Brunswick provincial elections. 31 of 49 seats in the legislature, unseating Blaine Higgs and the Progressive Conservatives. He did not win his seat, in fact, in Quispamsis. And Susan Holt has made history in the province, the first female premier ever. And look who we have time with this morning. Just delighted to meet the premier-designate of New Brunswick, Susan Holt from Fredericton. Good morning and welcome to our program.
Good morning, Heather. Thank you very much.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And secondly, let's talk about this political history that you've just made. First premier, first woman to lead the province of New Brunswick. What is the significance of that to you?
Oh, it's something that I've wanted to see my whole life. I didn't know it would be me that would be achieving this, but I've been wanting to see woman leadership in our province, like in so many other provinces across Canada and around the world. So I am humbled that I have this honor and this opportunity.
And a record number of female MLAs going into the legislature with you in this next government, which was interesting to see as well. Can I ask you personally who you were thinking about in the moment you were declared the winner? Who you were thinking about? Who perhaps has been inspirational, influential in your political journey?
Oh gosh. In the moment I was thinking about my kids. I have 3 daughters. They were with me, and my sister and my 2 best friends and my husband. I was really thinking about them, and feeling so grateful that New Brunswickers made it very clear what kind of leadership they want for our province, and what that opens up for my girls and for all of us.
Isn't that interesting? And I read your comments about you're going to be a mama bear. We got to let your children be because you want to be protective of them. I want to come back to the style of leadership and what you think New Brunswickers are looking for. But just if you would, why don't we take a moment to introduce yourself? 47, business advocate, public servant beforehand, but you haven't been the leader of the party for that long, and just a number of months as far as elected in that by-election into the Legislative Assembly of New Brunswick. So for a national audience, introduce yourself if you would.
Sure. Hi, I'm Susan Holt. I am a proud New Brunswicker. Je suis une femme bilingue qui a eu l'opportunité de prendre un programme d'immersion dans la seule province bilingue du Canada. I am a former rugby player who got to play rugby for New Brunswick and around the world. I'm a woman who built a career in technology, working for great Canadian success stories like Cognos and Research in Motion BlackBerry. And I am a woman who believes that we need politics to change if we want to continue to build strong democracy in this province with openness and authenticity, with getting out of the back rooms and the cubicles that have held us back, and doing real community-based policy development and governance with empathy, with leadership that's going to listen to people and that's going to really seek to learn from them and to serve them.
It's so interesting to see you go to the bilingualism, because we heard that from viewers, people telling us in New Brunswick they really wanted a bilingual premier in the province that is officially bilingual. So that was an important aspect of that victory, I think, for some voters yesterday. But that message that you said of change and of a new style, you've talked about a balanced approach in your leadership. What will that look like?
Well, New Brunswickers want to see a government that works like they do, right? And New Brunswickers have to live within their means and have to pay their bills each month while also thinking about the future. And so I think New Brunswickers were frustrated that budgets were balanced and surpluses were developed on their backs while our healthcare system crumbled and while our education system struggled. They want to see a balance between good fiscal management, continuing to pay down debt and balance the budgets year after year, but investing in the public services that New Brunswickers deserve. Everyone here deserves to have access to healthcare. And right now, more New Brunswickers than ever don't have a family doctor or a nurse practitioner or access to primary care. So they want to see their dollars invested carefully, with balance and fiscal responsibility, but to advance the services that governments are responsible for, particularly education, because that's what actually sets us up for the brightest future, for a healthier future. So that's the balanced approach that we're going to bring.
So healthcare, education, these were all things that you talked about as you campaigned very actively through the province in the past number of days. Can we just listen to something together? Because as I mentioned, we were out talking to voters yesterday as they were going to cast their ballots about the things that were on their minds as they decided who they were going to vote for yesterday. Let's just listen to some of the issues they raised, and then we'll come back and talk about those.
The state of our healthcare system has led me to my decision, and also the treatment of the LGBTQ youth.
I have a hard time having a leader of a bilingual province not be able to speak two languages.
Housing. I know that there's like a huge housing crisis currently.
Education system, I would say. That was one, but also just in general values and where people stand on more moral issues, I would say.
So that was what on their mind. I don't know what stood out to you. It's interesting. I mentioned the bilingualism point, and there was one of the voters who spoke to it directly. Some of the social conservative policies, perhaps, that were highlighted that we had from the progressive conservatives, which voters in New Brunswick did not choose. But then those specific issues, education, healthcare, and affordable housing. So there they all are for you. How do you tackle them? What do you tackle first?
Well, first I want to say it's clear that New Brunswickers are proud of our bilingual status, our uniquely bilingual status in Canada, and proud that we have something different from everywhere else with our Francophone culture and our Acadian culture, our British culture, our First Nations history. It's clear that New Brunswickers are proud of that and they want to celebrate it and preserve it. But you hear the challenges are many. Certainly healthcare was the number one challenge we heard throughout the election. And healthcare is a big issue. It's not just access to primary care and making sure people have doctors. It's making sure that our hospitals are working smoothly and that seniors are getting the care they deserve and not living in hospitals because of the absence of care at home or in long-term care facilities. The housing crisis is one that I know Canadians have seen across the country. New Brunswick is no stranger to the challenges of the rising costs of housing, the lack of availability of the kind of safe and affordable housing that people need. And so they were pushing the former government to put in place the kind of solutions that we see across the country that are making a dent in the issue. They want to see us tackling the housing crisis to make sure that people have an affordable place to call home. And then the education system, I always come back to it. It is a provincial responsibility. It is the best investment we could make in the future of New Brunswick. And right now, teachers have been not been supported. We don't have enough of them. Their working conditions are extremely challenging. What we see in classrooms, the diversity, the beautiful diversity that we're seeing in New Brunswick, as so many people have chosen to call this place home, has put a strain on our school system that teachers and parents and kids are looking for their government to address. And so the whole team is ready to tackle these big challenges.
But as you say, I mean, and in your campaign document, it was 100 promises and 30 pages long. You acknowledge and have obviously just done so there. The tasks and the challenges are many, and they are great. So in a province which has voted so resoundingly for change, looking for wins, what becomes job one? What do you want to make sure that they see immediately as you get underway today in the role?
Well, we know New Brunswickers want to see action right away. And there's a couple things that we can do quite quickly to deliver relief to people who are challenged with the cost of living, who are wondering if they're going to make next month's rent. So we're going to take the provincial tax off of power bills in New Brunswick immediately. That's going to deliver 10% savings a month to families in New Brunswick. We're going to put a rent cap in place, a policy that exists in Ontario and PEI, Nova Scotia and Quebec and BC, in a number of places so that people have stability in one of their biggest expenses every month. We can do those things quite quickly while we also do the big changes needed to transform how we deliver primary care in New Brunswick so that eventually every New Brunswicker can have access to a healthcare home. Those changes don't happen overnight, but some of those cost savings and some relief we can bring quite quickly to people who are struggling under the weight of the rising cost of living.
It doesn't sound like the celebration period is going to be too long. The work is already in your mind and getting underway. What a pleasure to meet you today. Thank you for giving us some time. I know as you head in, you're going to run into Brett Ruskin for another interview on CBC News, so we'll look forward to that conversation with him on our program a little bit later on. But thank you for this morning. And again, congratulations. Susan Holt, the Premier-designate of New Brunswick, and she's in Fredericton.